The storm poured heavily that evening, rinsing the grime from the cracked pavements and blending it with the sorrow of a lad who possessed nothing more to forfeit. His title was Alex, scarcely 16, famished, chilled and unseen by the society that had ceased noticing long ago. He crouched next to a garbage bin behind a shut eatery, his limp coat drenched completely, his limbs clenched around his legs as lightning crashed overhead. To the hurrying passers-by, he appeared merely another road urchin. Yet that evening destiny held different intentions. That evening he was destined to transform into the core of a narrative that would cause a whole community to weep. Before we plunge further into Alex's remarkable path, pause for an instant. If you trust in compassion, in fresh opportunities, and in the strength of acting properly, even when nobody observes, kindly press that like icon, forward this tale, and join the platform. Let's distribute narratives that yet recall us. Humanity remains alive. Alex had existed on the roads for more than a year. His mum passed when he was 14, and his dad, shattered by mourning and dependency, disappeared shortly afterward. The youth mastered to endure by foraging, performing small tasks, and resting wherever the darkness located him. Each day followed the identical pattern of starvation, frost, and dread. Still, under the coatings of filth and hopelessness, there existed something indestructible in him, something genuine that even the avenues couldn't steal away on that turbulent night. As Alex hunted for leftovers near the lane behind the restaurant, he spotted a bunch of males outside a close pub. They were yelling, furious tones slicing through the downpour. A huge fellow in a hide coat stood encircled by 3 junior lads, cruel-appearing sorts, chuckling, intoxicated, and eager for conflict. The senior guy was constructed like a fortress, ink marks on his limbs, the phrase "Hell's Angels" embroidered on his waistcoat. He was attempting to depart, but the thugs continued pressing him, ridiculing him, labeling him insults. The brawl was ready to begin. Alex halted. He'd witnessed battles before on the paths in refuges, but something in him refused to allow him simply stroll away. The aged rider seemed weary, injured, trapped. One of the thugs grabbed a steel rod, lifted it tall, prepared toe strike. Without pondering, Alex dashed toward them. The noise of the rod striking skin was piercing, but it wasn't the rider who received the hit. It was Alex. The tiny lad hurled himself between them, his limbs raised, his tone cracking as he shouted, "Halt!" He didn't commit anything. The males shifted on him, swearing, pushing him to the floor. The rider attempted to drag them away, but they were excessive. Alex rolled into a sphere as punches and kicks poured down on him. When the authorities' alarms ultimately howled in the far, the thugs fled like rodents. The rider, wounded but yet upright, knelt next to Alex. He raised the lad softly, supporting his skull as crimson dripped from his nostrils. "Why'd you perform that, youngster?" he murmured, tone shaking. Alex hardly succeeded to whisper, "Nobody merits to be harmed like that." Then all faded to dark. When Alex awoke, he lay in a clinic cot. The pale barriers and the constant hum of devices seemed surreal. His frame pained all over, but what astonished him most wasn't the ache. It was the view of the rider seated beside his cot, still in his hide waistcoat, eyes flushed and weary. "You're conscious," the fellow uttered gently. "Title's Mike. You rescued my existence out there." Over the following days, Mike remained. He discovered Alex's history bit by bit. The paths, the starvation, the isolation. The rider's spirit, toughened by decades of harsh existence and errors, started to soften. He noticed something in that lad that recalled him of himself when he was youthful before the planet became harsh. When Alex was released, Mike didn't permit him return to the roads. He carried him to his modest dwelling on the border of town, a shabby workshop packed with bikes, equipment, and a calm area Alex hadn't experienced in ages. Existence with Mike was altered. For the initial time, Alex had a mattress, hot dishes, and someone who inquired how his afternoon was. He assisted around the workshop, wiping components, mastering torpedo cycles. There was something nearly paternal in the manner Mike would demonstrate him how to grip a spanner or replace lubricant, rough tone concealing the increasing fondness. But rumors moved quickly in tiny communities. Folks began murmuring about the vagrant youngster, the rider, and what had occurred that evening. On dawn, a nearby journalist appeared at the workshop, inquiring about the courageous road lad who rescued a Hell's Angel. Mike didn't desire focus, but Alex's narrative expanded like blaze. Within days, regional broadcasts adopted it. Online platforms burst with images of the little lad beside the immense rider. The planet abruptly concerned about Alex, the lad who endured a thrashing Tosafigard, unknown. But not everybody in town appreciated it. Some claimed it was all for notice. Others mocked that a road lad doesn't merit pity. Alex listened to it all. He'd stroll residents from academy. Yes, Mike had registered him back into lessons and still sensed those gazes. He didn't comprehend why folks despised what they didn't understand. But Mike informed him something that remained. Let them chatter, youngster. What counts is who you decide to be when noon's observing. A few weeks afterward, something unforeseen occurred. One night, Mike received a ring. He didn't utter much, just nodded and instructed Alex to get prepared. We're heading for a trip, he stated. They traveled out to a vast open meadow just beyond town. As they curved the bend, Alex's eyes expanded. Hundreds, no thousands of cycles bordered the skyline. The growl of motors resounded like lightning. Males and females in hide waistcoats stood awaiting. On every jacket, the identical symbol, Hell's Angels. Mike pressed the lad's arm. Word circulated, he uttered softly. About what you performed for me? They all arrived. When Alex emerged from the vehicle, a hush dropped. Then one by one, riders removed their headgear and nodded in admiration. The chief advanced, his tone profound and loaded with feeling. This youngster, he uttered, gesturing at Alex, performed something most adult males wouldn't. He placed himself in danger's path for one of us. That sort of spirit merits to be celebrated. What occurred next brought the whole community to its joints. One by one, every rider ignited their motor, accelerating in harmony until the earth shook. Then they shaped enormous ring around Alex and Mike. The chief removed his waistcoat, something holy in their realm, and draped it over Alex's arms. From no one, he uttered, "Your kin." Tears flowed down Alex's cheeks. For a lad who had no one, who had been unseen his entire existence, to be embraced by an army of folks who viewed him, who cherished his bravery. It was too overwhelming to contain back. Even the gathering that had assembled to observe grew quiet. Some sobbed freely. The noise of motors thundered like a pulse of togetherness, resounding through the community and further. Broadcast teams arrived. The narrative expanded countrywide. Contributions flooded in for Alex's learning and for vagrant refugees in his community. Academies arranged meal collections. Places of worship opened their entrances to those on the paths. For the initial time, folks didn't merely discuss about compassion, they embodied it. And it all began with a youngster who declined to stroll away from someone in agony. Months afterward, Alex stood before his fresh academy, wearing that hide waistcoat proudly over his coat. The symbol on the rear wasn't a sign of defiance anymore. It was an emblem of fellowship, of fresh opportunities, of optimism. Mike observed from a distance, limbs folded, a subtle grin concealed behind his facial hair. He'd discovered something too, a cause to trust that even the toughest spirits could yet find salvation. Years went by. Alex grew taller, mightier. He learned diligently, labored part-time at Mike's workshop, and even began assisting at refugees, towed other vagrant youngsters. When he reached 18, the nearby leader invited him to address at a neighborhood gathering. Standing on that platform, gazing at hundreds of countenances, Alex's tone quivered as he uttered, "You don't require much to alter existence, just the bravery to concern." That evening, as he and Mike traveled side by side down the freeway, the breeze in their countenances and the celestials above, Alex sensed something he hadn't sensed in ages: serenity. He wasn't a misplaced youngster anymore. He was part of a kin, part of something grander. The planet could be harsh, yes, but it could also be lovely if you gazed closely enough. If this narrative moved your spirit, please take a moment to like this clip. Forward it with someone who yet trusts in optimism and join the platform. Your backing helps deliver more authentic, touching narratives like this to existence and recalls, folks, that compassion yet prevails. And before we conclude, remark below, what's one deed of compassion you've witnessed that renewed your belief in humankind? Your phrases might motivate someone today. As the motors of 1,000 cycles boomed through the darkness, folks emerged from their residences to observe. Aged males doffed their caps, moms clutched their offspring near, and somewhere amid that ocean of beams and hide, a once vagrant lad grinned through sorrow because he finally fit. Because he had demonstrated that even the tiniest deed of bravery can illuminate the gloomiest areas of the planet. And in that tiny community, forever altered by a single lad's spirit, the noise of thundering motors became the noise of optimism itself.